We're continuing the sustainability theme today with our discussion on the right to repair. We're going to be asking, how can we help to reduce the amount of global waste and its impact? How can we move away from built-in obsolescence in product design? And what action can be taken to prolong the life of engineered products and facilitate their reuse? We've got two brilliant speakers to explore these questions with, and I'm very pleased to be joined this evening by Professor Mark Miodownik and also Dr. Amrit Chanda. I'd like to talk more about that, but I also want to pivot slightly and look at education skills. So we've got a question from William Santos from ABI Electronics, and he's asking about the need to train technicians and engineers for repair, which is not necessarily the skill set that we have traditionally focused on. But I'd be quite interested in your, I guess, broader thoughts around what we're going to have to do differently in the way that we educate and upskill our engineering and design workforce at all levels. So Mark, do you want to kick off with that?
Yeah, I mean, so one of the things, I mean, I'm certainly someone who ended up in engineering because I was in a household where my dad and my mum repaired stuff, and I saw them doing it, and it was normal for me, and that's how I started to understand how things worked. And when I went to school, then I was given a whole lot of theory, and that was fine too. But I feel like what's happened is that the kind of the ratio in most people's lives of witnessing repair and understanding objects and engineering by taking them apart and mucking about has diminished compared to the theory of how things should work, and this is how we design things. And I just feel like that equation is not doing us any favors here. We need to shift that in schools. And I would like morning to be theory and the afternoon practice in every topic. I just think, great, theory is important. I do theory all the time, but without practice, it doesn't embed it in your head, and you don't really understand how the world works. So again, I think if we had a whole lot of people going through school who really understood how stuff works because they'd taken stuff apart and repaired them, and then I think their value set will change, because they'll love that stuff like I do, because it's interesting and you have a relationship with it that's deep, not superficial. And isn't that the cultural shift we need?
Oh, I wouldn't argue with you, Mark, but I would also say that, you are at one of the world's leading universities for engineering. So are you confident that your students in engineering and related areas are getting the education that they need to really embed circularity into the way that they go about being engineers when they finally hit the real world?
Well, we've definitely moved in that direction a lot in the last few years. So now we've invested in a 5-story building, which is just dedicated to the making and manufacturing. So all our students get to experience the mech space. All of our design work includes environmental audit and design for repair. So I wouldn't say we're perfect in any way. We're shifting in that direction. I think all engineering courses, really, the onus is to do this and to do it fast and to keep doing this. I agree. This really is the way forward. This topic is really deep in the sense that I think at all levels of society we can make a difference, and we need a wholesale, we need a movement, a zeitgeisty moment, in the same way that we had for plastic waste. We need that for this, and I think that then what you have also at the moment is professional repairers are getting, the average age in the UK is getting older and older, so they're plus 50 now, the average age. It's very hard to recruit. But why? Why is that? And it's not just pay, although pay is an issue. It's that it's not deemed to be, a career of note, right? But actually, from what we've been saying so far, if you look ahead, the repairers of the future are the ones that are going to really be keeping us on track to getting to net zero. And these people. Professional repairers are heroes. I mean, I think we really need to big up the status of the people who are taking us to net zero, because otherwise, we're in real trouble.
And just to add to that as well, I think as we transition to net zero, there is more and more being put into electronics and electric-based systems, and they are not simple things to repair in the same way that perhaps a car engine was up to sort of recent times. And so there is a looming crisis in infrastructure to actually support even the electric vehicles that are coming out on the road, because the skills to actually repair and remanufacture those isn't there, and there is no solution at the moment. The solution for dealing with when something goes wrong with the electric vehicle is that batteries are stockpiled in warehouses until the automakers are able to figure out a solution. And so there needs to be a level of training, even of the existing, mechanics and local MOT garages, to be able to deal with the more and more complex nature that we're seeing, and actually be able to do repairs without it having to go back to the manufacturer.